everyone, it is Lily, and today I thought it would be fun to do a little experiment. I painted a little fan art for the game Earthbound a couple weeks ago, and I decided to redraw it to the best of my ability using Photoshop and the new drawing tablet that I recently purchased. I wanted to see just how different my illustration would turn out, whether I was doing it in traditional medium versus digital medium. And I wanted to see, how this style would change, if it was that much quicker, what the advantages were, whether I was doing digital or traditional art. And just comparing, I thought it was really interesting how I approach these two different illustrations. So I noticed that when I was drawing these, I worked on the characters in about the same order, which I found very interesting. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense, working in the middle and working your way out. But a huge difference I noticed is that because the paint I was using was kind of translucent, I had to do several layers of paint. And so this meant working on pretty much the whole painting, all the different characters, at about the same time. I wanted to give the paint enough time to fully dry before I put down any more paint so I wouldn't smear it. And so I would lay down blocks of color here and there, on the dry areas of paint. And with the digital version, I pretty much focused on an entire character until I had the character done and then moved on to the next one. Digital painting too, the paint I was using was completely opaque, or the setting I had it on was completely opaque for the Photoshop illustration, which meant that I didn't have to do layers and layers of paint. And for the traditional version, my paint was, a little bit translucent, so I had to, go back over those areas with more paint. Another difference between digital and traditional medium is that the digital paint, obviously, it never runs out on the brush, so you can just keep painting and you don't have to reload your brush. You can just keep going forever. But with the traditional medium, eventually you run out of paint on your brush, so you have to go back in and get some more paint, move it around, get some more paint. And so that is a little bit of a restriction with the traditional medium. Another difference is that in Photoshop, obviously, I could hit the undo button. So this let me get more accurate, precise areas of color that I wanted. And it also let me experiment a little bit with different kind of shading techniques and basically just, how the drawing was looking. I didn't feel like I was ruining it because I, could just go back into the layer and fix it. And with the traditional medium, I had to make sure I had the same colors so I could, fix those little mistakes. There were quite a few places around the characters where I wanted to clean up some lines, so I had to keep a hold of that sky blue color so I could go back in and fix those details. And with the digital, because it's on layers, you don't even have to worry about the background because it's totally separate and you can just, put it in later. What else is different? Using textured brushes on Photoshop was interesting. It's interesting to see how changing the size of the brush changes how the texture looks. So I felt like some areas of texture in the Photoshop drawing were a little bit inconsistent, and of course in the painting it was pretty much completely consistent because I was it's all the same scale, no matter, I can't like zoom in on it or anything. Definitely the traditional drawing, I felt like a lot more was at stake because I didn't want to have to go back in and fix those areas, so I worked a lot slower and more precise. I think overall the traditional drawing with the acrylic paint, that took me about 3.5 hours, and the digital drawing took me, I think it was about 2 hours an hour 45 minutes maybe. So the digital drawing took quite a significant amount less of time, but I was surprised it still took me that long. I was expecting it to be a lot faster, and maybe it would be faster if I was just a little bit more familiar with the tablet. One thing that was very useful and kind of amazing about the digital drawing is that I could specifically pick up certain areas of the drawing and move them or warp them. So earlier you saw me take a side of Jeff's glasses and expand it a little better to fit his face better. And then I also picked up Paula and I moved her closer to Ness. You know, I put like one of their arms behind the other person's body to make it look like the overlapping was a little better. You know, you can just pick things up, move them around, and that's really very useful when doing an illustration. I couldn't do that with the traditional medium, obviously, because it's actually down on to the actual paper, you know, it's painted on there. I mean, I guess I could have like taken some scissors and cut it and moved them, but that was definitely not going to happen, not in this drawing. But I mean, I think I worked around this. You know, Jeff is a little bit awkwardly far away from Ness. He's kind of just like putting his hand on his shoulder. But I mean, you know, I was trying my best. I think one thing that I really responded to in the traditional medium is that because I was using acrylic paint, there are some raised surfaces from the paint, a little bit of texture there, and I think that it looks actually really cool. I think it's super neat. I think the outlining helped the drawing quite a bit. I was very surprised, and I think it has a really cute charm to it. Their faces are a little bit squished, they're a little bit, you know, rounded characters, and I think it's actually super cute. I think it turned out really well. But with the digital drawing, I was able to get the illustration closer to my initial sketch because I took a picture of the sketch, right? And I basically drew right on top of it in Photoshop, and so that let me draw according to how I originally planned it to be. And so it was more faithful to my original idea. But I think that there's just something so nice about the traditional piece. It just has this very cute quality to it that I just couldn't replicate in the digital piece. I think part of that is also that the digital piece turned out quite flat because I was doing a lot of flat cell shading, and those brush marks and the bumps from the paint on the traditional piece really helped add that little bit of a charm. I think that one advantage of using digital art is that you can manipulate gradients really easy. So here I'm doing the gradient on the background, and it was so much easier than doing the paint. And you know, because it's in layers, I can do that at the end if I want to. I can do it at any time. But with the traditional piece, I had to do it at the beginning. Another thing that's cool about the digital art is that I put a filter on it and I checked out some different color schemes near the end to see which I thought I liked the best. And I was honestly trying to go for something similar to the traditional piece, which I thought was kind of funny. Anyway, here is the full drawing of the digital, and I think it's super cute. I like how it turned out. I think the little UFO turned out really shiny and kind of good. I like the background a lot, and I like how neat and clean it is. And here is the traditional piece. Even though it turned out a little bit less consistent and flat than the digital piece, I honestly really like the traditional piece. I think it's so cute. It has this charm to it that I just couldn't get with digital art. Yeah, I enjoyed painting this so much. And the outlines really, brought it all together. I think both versions have their own merits, and I like them both for different reasons. Anyway, tell me which one you liked in the comments below. Digital art and traditional art are both awesome, and they both have their unique perks, and I'll be doing lots more of both of those in the future. I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching my video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!